I'm excited for this new segment that you're briefing about. I don't know. I don't know if this is.
Good or bad?
Yeah, you're frozen on my. Oh, there you go.
No, it'll be good. Uh, well, I think like at least for us in our world, a big event recently was Alex Hormozi's $100 million models live prezo, where he just streamed live for like 2 days and made $100 million.
Yeah, that's so crazy. It's funny because this was one of my bullet points too for today, and I've got some numbers around it if you don't. But yeah, that was. I mean, it was crazy because it's like obviously what he does is pretty cool. Where it's like each book is kind of proof in itself. And I feel like each time he's launched, he's gone for progressively more like a bigger thing. And so
Yep.
this was like the biggest thing where like last time I think he fooled all of us where it was like, oh, this is what the cost is gonna be, and then it was actually free and you got all
Yeah.
those downloads and those like they were like courses essentially for free.
We were
Uh,
like, damn, should we do it? I don't know. What do you think? And then he says it's free. We're like, oh,
and then this time it actually was 6 grand.
yeah. Well, I saw someone talk about it. They're like, he's built up the goodwill though from all these past years of doing that, where it was like he knew he could eventually drop an offer and people would be into it.
Gary Vee could have done something like this, dude, with all the people that he had following him and all the goodwill. I think this was the master class on how to do a launch, at least a book launch. And I was actually thinking about it. I was like, "Huh, I wonder how you could do this, and maybe we can brainstorm some ideas in this podcast later on. Like, how do you do this in a non-physical thing, like like a services business? How do you do this kind of launch?
Subscription launch.
But man, how many books did he sell? What was the counter up to on the last day? Was it over 3 million?
Last I saw is like 2.9, but maybe it got over. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's say $3 million, 3 million books.
Yeah.
And so at $30 a piece, that's $90 million top line revenue in books in just a couple days. And I was starting to look into have you ever like looked up like what margins are on books? So apparently as the actual if you're like, oh, the the author but not the publisher, it's not that great. So like if
Yeah.
you look at like what it is, it's much lower percentage because obviously like when you're writing a book, there's also a usually a publisher involved, and that middleman is kind of like in music, it's like the distributor or the record label that takes a good amount of the money from like whatever the launch is. Well, in this case, I looked it up, and Alex actually has his own publisher. So he is the guy who does his own thing. And so what's really crazy about that is he gets both of those cuts. So if you look at like a
Damn.
if you look at basically the author in a traditional model, it's like 7 to 25% is what you get of the actual cover price. And so like, it's different for different things, but the crazy because like the traditional publisher takes about 40 to 50% of the margins. And so in his case, if we look at like at least what ChatGPT says for his direct to consumer, so like we bought most of those through his website, right? So he doesn't have to pay like an Amazon fee for hosting that because most of those books were sold by acquisition.com. And
Yeah.
so about 80 to 90% margins on that. And and this is why that happens too is notice we paid for shipping. So when you bought the book for $30, you actually paid $40 because you paid the $10 shipping.
Mm.
And so if the book costs $4 or $5 to print or less because he's making 3 million copies. So maybe maybe he got it down to $3 or $2 per.
Yeah. Damn.
That's an 80 to 90% margin. Because even print via Amazon, so all the books that he sells on Amazon are 30 to 40%. And I didn't see like what is the price on Amazon. So maybe he works that into that. So he charges 40. So maybe that margin's a little bit higher because Amazon obviously does the free shipping. So usually if you like list your book at cover price, which is $30, what's going to happen is Amazon is going to charge you take out a percentage for the shipping and the handling and all that kind of stuff. So ebooks 65 to 70% on Amazon. Ebooks direct are obviously like 90% plus because an ebook direct is like there's literally almost zero cost to that besides like the shop pay fee.
He doesn't even have it listed on Amazon, at least not yet.
Yeah. And then Audible, you only get 25 to 40%. So, I mean, obviously the reason why he didn't list it on Amazon is because you go from 80 to 90% margins to 30 to 40% margins. So it's like Amazon just takes such a big cut because I think Amazon feels like they are also supplying the demand for it.
Right.
And so they're charging you for the impressions and the eyeballs to even be on Amazon. And that's where they're taking a big cut. And so in Hormozi's model here, he's like, dude, I brought the whole audience to this webinar. I'm not going to sell on Amazon because it's basically like you're giving me an affiliate fee essentially, but I'm bringing all the traffic here. And so it's so smart to sell this direct to consumer immediately because then you don't lose all that margin. So
now you have to have an audience like he does to be able to do that.
For sure. But it's so smart to not launch on Amazon because everyone that has Amazon loves Amazon. And like, for example, like me and you, if it would have launched on Amazon, we would have bought it on Amazon. Like I've pre-ordered a ton of books. Like I think I pre-ordered all the Gary Vee books on Amazon, but it's like, if you buy it directly from him, it just makes it such a better margin. So like on
I wonder how much do you think that it costs to have his own publishing company though? Like,
well, here's the thing. I think the publishing company, what they help you do is they help you like find the printer for your books. Cause the publishing company, sometimes I don't even know if they have their own printer, but like, for example, he could have found an independent printing company just to print these. So then the publisher is just really the person who like sets up all of those engagements.
Oh, I thought you said he started his own.
Well, it is technically like acquisition.com is listed as the publisher. I just don't know how that works. I assume he doesn't publish anyone else's books. So like on that $90 million, he's taken home like $75 million.
Yeah.
Which is an insane weekend. And then it makes sense why like it was funny. We were just texting throughout that whole day where it was like he started at whatever it was, 9 a.m. our time.
Yeah.
And he was still going at 5 o'clock our time.
At 11, Matt was like, he's still going? We're like, yeah.
Dude, he went till 5. And it was like, I think maybe even later, like he had guests on and all this stuff. And then he redoes it essentially the same live, but different. And then finally I could tell that it really wasn't a copy because he was like, this is the time I normally bring up the guests because the guest slide came up. But he's like, we did that yesterday. So obviously we're not bringing guests out today. And he just kept on going through it. And then I think he did another thing the next day, like third
yesterday.
day.
He was on yesterday.
Yeah, which is crazy. So it's like, but obviously like, dude, 3 days of work. Who wouldn't, if they had this audience, do 3 days of like 12-hour days for $75 million? Like that's like the stupidest money ever, like per hour that you're making. And so, I mean, that just goes to show you the guy is the GOAT at like what he's doing. And it's incredible because he's not that old. What is he, like 35, 36 years old?
36, I think so, yeah.
Something in that range. And it's like, man, it's just such an inspirational thing to me just to be able to see like, man, this guy really is not just talking the talk, but he's like walking the walk. Because like that many books is insane. If that, like we were always like, oh, is that actually the real number? I guess like the big thing was the Guinness Book of World Records people came out, which was also smart because it was like, oh, is he lying about this? But it's like, no, the Guinness Book of World Records people came out like an hour or two into it and said he sold 1.4 million within the first hour. So it's like, it's like,
I think the counter wasn't like, oh, they're just flying off like that. But I think, the numbers were probably.
well, what I think what I would assume happened was they had pre-sold probably 1.5 million,
And they just ran the counter to get that. Yeah,
exactly. Because like at the end, it seemed pretty legit because it was like in Shopify and Shop Pay, like I imagine they have like some widget for a counter that you could build, because it was like every time someone would buy 400 books, it would like burst and go up, and then it would stay at the very end. It was staying flat for a long time, and then all of a sudden it was like he would get a purchase. So who knows?
Did they mention what percent bought with that Affirm payment plan?
No,
Because I will say that changed probably. What percent do you think doesn't buy if he didn't have that option?
80%.
Yeah,
Because I don't think 80% of the audience has $6,000. Because what did it break? Did a firm let you break it into however
250 a month.
Yeah. So it's like, for how many months? It's like you're paying off a car, dude. That's like a car payment. That's
insane,
crazy.
dude.
That's like my wife's Honda Civic when we were in college. That was like her Honda Civic payment.
That's a
For not quite as long, but still
wild to.
I haven't done the math on 250 a month. That's what, like every 4 months you pay off 1,000. So it's times 24 months. So you got to pay that for 2 years. You're paying this.
He's got 200 books sitting in your fucking.
And then he's already launched you next year on another launch that you add another 250 a month. Now you're paying Hormozi a student loan payment of 500. And to be honest with you, this is probably better than any $6,000 class at a university. Because what does one class cost you at a university? It's got to be the credits have to be over $6,000, right?
And that's one quarter.
Yeah, because per year, PT school is for me it was cheap, but it's 40, 50 grand. Divide that by however many classes. Yeah, so it's that's probably 2 classes in undergrad. And it's like the amount of value you probably get out of those books if you actually read them, study them, and use them as if they're they're the New Testament for you.
Well, that's the funny thing about all that he does is he's kind of calling his shots. It's like playing basketball. Like, I'm gonna go right, and you still can't stop me. I'm gonna go left. Nothing that he's doing is oh my God, he made this all up. It's just he's showing you what the plays are. Many people have tried it and done it too, and he's just doing it again in your face.
Well, dude, and here's the smartest play that he had in this whole thing that you probably forgot about. The school offer.
Oh, the continuity.
Dude, 90 days free and then $9 a month for life. So instead of $99, which it normally is, it's $9 a month. Smartest thing you could have done.
Is you just sign up?
I'm going to. I feel like you have to.
$9?
I feel like we have to start a school group now for our business stuff. Because here's the crazy thing about that. That's a great price. A lot of these other places do hundreds of dollars a month. Like our Kartra thing is it's like $250, $300 a month. This school is $9 per month. And here's the crazy thing. So how many people do you think he converted over to his school offer? Let's say something low. I think you could probably convert 10,000 people to that from the millions of people that he has. So that's 90 grand a month once that goes through. So annualized, that's over $1 million. But the craziest thing is because he owns a lot of school, think about the enterprise value increase by adding 10,000 users. That's got to be an insane increase, right? So now all of a sudden he's got this insane enterprise value increase and he's just like, he's hitting it from all angles. Cause that's what SaaS products, right? Like it's going to sell as a multiple of whatever your like recurring revenue is. And so like, let's say his recurring revenue is $1 million and he sells at 10 times recurring or 15 times. That's already, even if you only got 10,000 people, that's already a $15 million increase to his enterprise value of his holding of school. And those kind of products, I feel like, are pretty sticky, especially at $9 a month when they're like, oh, by the way, if you ever cancel this, it goes up to 100. Dude, and that's the money
the
model
offer right there.
And this is the money model. This is like, it's like the, oh, you lock this price in, but by the way, if you ever cancel, it's the exact same reason why I never cancel my LA Fitness membership, even though I own 6 clinics inside of gyms. I finally canceled it after I owned my 4th gym and I had a garage gym. Dude, I had a gym in my garage. And I had like all these other gyms I could go to. I had Renton, which is like the mecca at Vigor. And I still kept this LA Fitness because I was grandfathered in at this like
you never
$15.
know.
Well, and it was $15 a month. So it was just low enough where I was like, if I ever want to go hoop, none of these gyms I have basketball courts. And these basketball courts have the people that want to run pickup. And so if I ever want to go run a pickup game of basketball, like I have to have this. And by the way, if I cancel it, if I come back, it's $40 a month now. So now I'm like 3xing my price. And so in Hormozi's model here, it's 10xing the price, or it's 11xing the price actually to get to this. So it's like that's just a pretty insane continuity pitch there. Where it's just like, oh, by the way, you guys are all going to spend all this money, and then I'm also going to roll you over into this like recurring stream. Man, what a masterclass! That was insane, and that's what made me think. I'm like, man, how can we do anything like this in physical therapy? Like, is there anything possible in this model?
Well, you're right into my next new segment. It's called Hate It or Love It. So he breaks down his money models. It's an attract offer, an upsell offer, a downsell, and a continuity offer. So I've got 3 options at all of them that a PT clinic could roll out. And I'm just going to lay them out there and you tell me if you hate them or you love them. So attraction offer, that's kind of, to me, at least in PT where we're at, in insurance based was kind of like the weakest one. But if you're cash based, I think there's 3 options. You go free injury screen, which is what we do. You go like cheap offer, like $49, get you in the door, try and sell you on something bigger, or you go like a 3-pack, a lower price 3-pack. Which one do you love and which ones do you hate there?
I love the lower priced offer if you can do it. Like the dentist model of like examine x-rays for $29 or examine x-rays for $49. I think it's like, I imagine especially if you pay up front, your show rate is going to be so much higher, like for people actually coming. And, I think we have I would have to go back and look at like our free injury screen, or like really what we call is like free injury and performance assessment is what we used to call it. Like you can dress up the language around that in like whatever you think your like consumer would want. I would say our show rate for those is pretty darn high. But that's like, you got to get qualified customers. Like,
it's not Facebook leads, it's like those free injury screens are people that probably we met or they actually seeked us out.
Yeah, they're way warmer, or like even hot leads. Like we met them at an event and they actually have an injury and they're just kind of on the fence where they need PT. And it's like, hey, just come in and get an assessment. That's a pretty good one for us. If it was like teeth whitening or something like that, where people are like, oh, free offer, just claim it and book an appointment, and there's no downside to not showing up and you can't be held accountable, I feel like that is probably not the best. I think like I think that either the third one is probably a good option. Like run me through a three pack of like, so like it's like, oh, you get your first 3 sessions, you have to buy it, it's a lower price or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the lower price first offer, like you said, you pare down what an actual visit would be and like strip it down to just a couple pieces, so you get a couple things, but you don't get the full thing. And then in that session, you're obviously selling on, well, shoot, if we did the full thing, or like if you continue with us, here's what you could get. Like maybe it's a $50 strength test and force plates,
Yep.
and we just run you through that, and then we're like, yeah, you got some stuff to work on. Here's what I would suggest. Blah blah blah.
Yep. No, I think that stuff is easier to train on. Breaking down like an assessment for like, that's more of like what I would call performance assessment. Injury screen, very hard to break down. And this is, by the way, why cash pay PT, I think, is so much harder, because there's so much more training involved on the PT side, where you have to say like, hey, by the way, do this, but withhold this. Like, don't give them this thing. Versus like for us, the injury screen is like, hey, give as much value as you possibly can to this person. And then the idea is that like they see the value in PT and they come in and they keep on doing PT with us. So there's no coaching on like withholding stuff. It's just
Yeah.
like coaching on how to give as much value. But that's why cash PT always sounds like a good idea. But it's like, would you ever want to be in a market where you have to sell against people who are at like a 10 times lower price? Like, that's a hard thing to do, especially in a market like we're in Seattle. I think it's easier in like a Nevada, a New York, like those kind of markets where
You
the
sell one on one versus
4 to 1.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
easy.
So it's like, hey, we're 4 times the price, but we're also 1 to 1 instead of 4 to 1. So you get, like essentially the same amount of time, and the time is more quality because we're not all burnt out because we're seeing 4 patients an hour. The hard part about that is in Washington, it's like maybe you sell an hour one-on-one versus 45 one-on-one, but it's like, is that worth 10x the price, the extra 15 minutes? That's a hard sell. I'm not saying it can't be done, and people I think probably successfully do it here, but you got to know your market, because like if you look at our market, there's really not a ton of cash pay PT here. Even for pro athletes, a lot of folks are taking their health insurance because it's just like it's competitive up here for insurance-based PT, and almost everyone up here is one-to-one care. There's and the clinics that are doing 2 to 1, they're not thriving probably as well as they could, at least with like quality customers. Like we know people that have worked at some of these ones that are like 2-on-1, and their cancellation rates are super high, their no-show rates are super high. They're getting a lot of patients, but they're like their schedule looks like Swiss cheese because they're just not getting a lot of retention. They're getting a lot of churn. And so that's also tough on a PT, I think, because you're just knocking out evaluations and people are just dropping off left and right. And so I feel like at some point you feel less effective as a provider and you lose confidence because you're just like, man, everyone I work with, they're just like dropping off. My lost patient list is 300 at any given time. So I think it's challenging, but as far as like getting people in the door, it's always that balance between, I think, like getting someone to actually come in and stay, because in our industry, we actually want people to stay. Some industries, you want to sell them. Well, I mean, this is kind of a shady industry, but like big box, I shouldn't say shady. Big box gyms, their whole model is like they want to sell you and then they don't want you to come. Like they're never going to message you and be like, hey, by the way, I noticed you haven't scanned in this month. It's like their goal is to like sell you on it while you're in peak pain and then hope you never come back, because then you don't use the equipment, and they can sell 10,000 memberships because only 5% of their member base ever shows up on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
Whereas like PT, you actually want them to show up. Same with like, I guess like restaurants. I don't know. What do you think? If you sold, I always think about gift cards. Like how many gift cards do you think people buy and never use? Like how many get lost? And so it's like they sell the product, but they never have to like fulfill the service. I always thought that was a good business model, I guess, like where it's like, oh, I sold a $150 gift card and it never got claimed, so I got that free money. But at the same time, I'm like, but then that person never came in and experienced the free thing. Where I think that's almost better, because like whenever you show up to a restaurant and you have a gift card and it's all free, you almost have a more positive experience. And you're like,
Open.
oh my God, this place is so awesome. I got all that for free. It was so good. And like almost the food tastes better. The service is better because it's all free. And then it's like you're probably more likely to come back. So that's an interesting like kind of like dilemma. Which would you rather have? Would you rather sell the gift cards and never have them come in and not deliver the service, or would you rather actually have them capitalize on it?
I think I would see the gift cards as just an added like cash flow, like I'd push them harder than most people do, because okay, like at the very least you got the money. If they don't show up, that's on them. If they do, they're gonna feel good, right? So it's like,
Yep.
I don't think even some restaurants, I like look online, I'm like, you don't even have a gift card that I can buy. Like, this is stupid. You're shooting yourself in the foot. And
I feel like some restaurants, though, you have to be a good manager to do gift cards, because I think that some people would sell a bunch, and if you don't proportionately plan for those folks to come in the future with like saving money behind for like all the food it takes to like and labor it takes to like serve those people, you potentially have a problem on your hands. Like, you spend the money before you get it. It's like, it's kind of like, I think about that with the paid in full gym. It's like paid in full year. That's kind of crazy, because it's like, I guess like, as long as you budget out what your staff cost is and whatever your like fixed costs are for the rest of the year, and then you just spend the rest. But if you go and buy, like, let's say you get a bunch of paid in full and you just go buy a bunch of equipment, but then no one else is paying for the rest of the year, how do you pay your staff? How do you buy toilet paper? And how do you pay your phone bill? It's like, you got to really be a good budgeter of money. Like, imagine if like salary was paid all at once. How many people do you think would actually make it to the end of the year without having a cash problem?
For sure. Yeah.
And that's why like businesses that have steady cash flow, like non-lumpy cash flow, like we have a very smooth cash flow. It's like, as the person is seen, they're paying for the visit. And so like they are paying at the time of service for that service. And it's like they aren't really buying it up front. So it's like we have a steady flow. But we've never operated in a really lumpy cash flow business with like, 90-day payment terms and things like that. But, that becomes more of a need for a good CFO that forecasts, costs and spend and stuff like that.
For sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I think you got to evaluate your market and where you're getting leads and stuff like that. We've always kind of run, I'd say free injury screens have been the most successful for us. We've tried those like lower offers, but never really like too pumped about it.
Yeah, it's just like PT is just such and medical, I would say medical insurance based care is just such a different market than like a standard services business, like like anything else, gutter cleaning, pressure washing, like things like that. It's just such a different beast, because the price isn't even the same for everybody, right? It's like, everybody's got different insurances. Everyone's at a different spot with their deductible. So you can't even advertise like, oh, 10% coinsurance is, because like the next guy's going to have 40% coinsurance. The next woman's going to have a $3,000 deductible they haven't met. So it's like, it's very, which I think is also, by the way, important what we do, which is like the visit estimate of cost, because like it is so all over the place for our industry. I think it's a hugely important piece of like making sure people understand that. And then we have a process for making sure there's a different touch point for people that have high deductibles and are going to have to spend significant amounts of money, because you're going to actually have to close that person probably that's going to have to spend $3,000 versus the person that's going to pay $12 a visit. Like, that's going to be a very different process to convince each of those people that they should get PT still. And so just like that's an interesting like factor of PT in healthcare.
Well, and that's why I kind of stray away from the reduced offer, because if you sell someone on a $40 visit and then they want to use the insurance and you now have to tell them that it's going to be, 150 or whatever, it's like, yeah, but I just got this for 50. I don't really want to pay more, versus like the free, they're not even used to paying yet, and they also feel like you hooked them up. Like I kind of lean towards that. I'm sure both work.
For
But
PT, I feel like that's basically for like insurance-based care, that is the model. It's like free something just to get them in your doors. Because the conversion rate on getting someone through the door in your facility is going to be so much better than, not. And that's why I think like these events that we do, maybe a better idea is like, hey, this is the free injury screen. Sign up for the eval. Like, don't even offer them a free injury screen spot, because like you already got the free injury screen. You've seen what it is, but you have to be able to provide that value within that first 15 minutes at that event. And I would be curious if we did an event like that, what the show rate would be for evals booked during that
at the time. Yeah.
Because like you're also selling at peak pain, right? Like you're giving them a glimpse of like what, what's to come, but they're also still in peak pain. So you're not like solving anything for them. But yeah, I've thought about that a lot, where I'm like, man, we're basically doing free injury consults, and then we're selling them a free injury, or we're getting them into a free injuries consult and then trying to convert them from there. Some of my thought is like getting them through the door again is like the conversion rate of like lower churn is going to be way higher, but maybe the eval is like a better option to sell at that point.
Yep. So upsells, we got different like tools, or like a pro recovery. Like we already kind of do it for dry needling. It's an extra charge. I think you could charge even more though, and actually do it as like you're really trying to make money, not just covering costs. You could do like, hey, BFR added on. That's an extra upsell charge. The force plates are an extra upsell charge. And it's like, here's the pro level tier of recovery. We could do like a performance package. Like, I guess we kind of already do that, but like once they're done, hey, let's sign you up for 3 months more of performance training to just kind of like bridge the gap for you. Or then you could upsell like quarterly reassessments, like head to toe. Like we kind of always talked about, like strength testing, force plates, all this other stuff, just like mobility, and maybe create like a membership on that. But it's like, hey, you're coming in for PT with us. Do you want to add on the annual movement membership that comes with quarterly check-ins and stuff like that, whether you're in PT or not?
Yep. No, I think the quarterly one's great, because it's like, oh, quarterly reassessment. It's like basically you're selling them a insurance policy essentially, where it's like, hey, just make sure this doesn't come back. Why don't you just come back here and check it out? And there's so many people that I wish that we had on that, because like I see them and I'm like, wow, like if you just would have like come back like right after this was bothering you, or we would have rechecked your quad strength here, you wouldn't have re-injured your knee. And so I think that is great. Like even like monthly tune-ups, where it's like, hey, come in for a monthly thing, like, just like a movement coach, like optimize whatever your workout, ask any questions about your programming or whatever. But I think the upsell to the continuity program is great, because it's like recurring, but also like I think there's a sale somewhere in there where it's like, hey, by the way, this is our HEP platform, but we also use Train Heroic. If you wanted to upgrade to Train Heroic right now, here's what you get. We'll build out full workout. You get all the videos. It's way better, like two-way communication with your PT, and that's going to cost this much a month to start. while you're in PT, and then it goes up to this when you leave or whatever. Maybe you just started out at the base price, whatever it is, $250 a month or whatever you're gonna do. I feel like there's probably an upsell to like an elite package of like, hey, by the way, like PT, it kind of just gets you like in-person stuff. But if you want to be like coached throughout, we also have this like continuity offer. Each therapist can only take on 10 clients at any given time. And right now this person's got 2 spots available. If you want one, just let us know. I think there's like something to be had there, because like right now our PTs are kind of helping. So like sometimes I'm like helping build out like people's upper body workout programs when they're seeing me for lower body. It's like, that should be an extra service, especially because like that PT is going to have to spend extra time developing those workouts. I just don't know. Yeah, like the peak pain is probably the best place to sell that person on that versus the continuity after. Although we've had pretty good rates of like in our pilots of like selling people into continuity. And and the great thing about this industry is like when you talk about selling someone into something, it's like you're basically like getting them to help themselves. Like, hey, like don't just drop off a cliff after you're done with PT and you finally got to feeling better. Like continue on with your workout program. And inside of this is like accountability. It's all, it's all that stuff. And the cool thing about something like Train Heroic is you get the direct messaging with your therapist within there as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think all like you could try all those things. I think a lot of it, like with the BFR and this, like we've already kind of incorporated it all into what we already do. So it'd be hard to break that out for us, but I could see how you could just package it where it's like, hey, this is like pro athlete shit. Do you want it or not? And
I think where we need to do a better job of that is that's like the offer value stack. That's like $100 million offers. That's like offers so good you can't say no. It's like, hey, by the way, for the same price that you would pay at this other clinic, you also get access to these boots. You also get access to dynamometry and force plates testing. You also get access to like a larger facility, like all this kind of stuff. And so that's kind of
so we should be converting everyone, like anyone that reaches out. Like it's like you're not going to get this anywhere. Maybe if you go play for the Seahawks, you could get this, but
yeah,
exactly. We're going to be able to do that.
Exactly. That's like that offer stack. And so maybe you don't even use some of your stuff as an upsell. Use it more like a value add where it's like all this extra stuff you get, and then here's what you use. But like I could see us having this where it's like anytime you come in, you can get a water bottle with a hydration in it. Like like I could see that being a really cool like elite recovery package where it's like, oh, by the way, you also can come in and you could book the recovery boots whenever you want, and you can come in during business hours and use them if you want it. Yep. And like I think all of those things help. And then the more you get people in the door, the more consistent people are, that you have that continuity as well.
Yep. Now downsells. So the things I thought of was you could downsell someone. Hey, I know it's a little tough to afford the one-on-one. We could set aside like specific times for group sessions. So it's like, hey, there's going to be 5 people in this group, kind of like a semi-private, and it's a reduced rate, and you just book like it's at 4 and it's at 4:45. That's it. And you have a PT who's okay with that. Pay them more because ideally, if they fill it, they have an opportunity to make more on that session. You could downsell them to like, hey, all right, I know it's a little expensive, but we have a program you could try out. You got neck pain. We have a neck pain program. Try that out. Or what about like, I don't know how it works, but like, okay, there's a discounted rate, but you got to see one of our students.
I mean, I love all those. The hard part about this, and I'm not a lawyer, so don't. I'd have to check with our legal team about all of these options, because in medical, the tough part is like there's a lot of regulation around what you can and can't do. So obviously, before you ever launch something, make sure that like the regulatory bodies that are overseeing this are okay with this. This is the disclaimer on this. Now, How I can see this happening is like the downsell is a great idea because you're like, hey, you can't get one-on-one care, but naturally, like let's say you have 3 patients in an hour, you would only bill them for maybe 2 codes versus 4. So it actually would be half the price, even if you charge their insurance, because like you wouldn't double charge everybody. So you'd be like, oh, everybody gets 2 units here. That's, here for the hour. And so you would get,
Or you just say it's a cash pay. I wouldn't think you'd bill insurance, but I guess you could.
well, the problem is that's again with the regulatory bodies. If you accept insurance and this person's insurance already, you can't now not charge their insurance. Like we have a legal obligation to do that. So in a cash pay option, this would be a great idea where it's like, hey, the one-on-one care is $150, but then you can also do like 3 on what we call small group PT, which is $75 a session instead of $150. And we make your program. You still get in the hour 20 minutes of one-on-one time, but you don't have to pay as much, and you get to use our facility at the same time. Yeah. I think that's a really cool idea because it's the same idea as personal training, where it's like, hey, you can't afford or don't want to pay for the one-on-one personal training time. Let's just do small group. It's anywhere groups from 2 to 4 people, and you come in here and train and do this. I think that's a great option. I think the downsell of like, hey, here's the programming, and I think you could even do this on a scale of like, come in for your evaluation and pay for that, and then you really never have to come in again. We'll just kind of virtually coach you through this program. It's going to be $250 a month, but if you were actually doing this in person, it would be $150 a session, and you'd on average be coming 6 to 8 times a month. So you're actually paying, a fourth of the price of what it would be, but you're paying the $250 a month. So it's like you almost can downsell them to the continuity offer of someone who that's the upsell on the back end of care. And then you don't have to have a bunch of different products. The PT kind of knows what they're doing. But I think obviously for safety, you got to have that person come in and do their evaluation. Hey, let's get an idea of what's actually going on here. And then, maybe with that, there's like an intermittent call in there too, because you're not just doing like wellness, you're like kind of tweaking stuff based on injury. But I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here that can be applied on the downsell, because like no PT clinic that I know, cash pay probably does it, but no PT clinic insurance based that I know like does a downsell offer like that.
Yeah. What about the seen by a student?
Yeah, I mean, I think
like in not insurance, just like, hey, you're not networked with my insurance. I don't want to pay $150. Do you think it makes sense to say like it's $100 to see this student, or is it worth it? Is it not worth it, and we should just let the person go?
I mean, I think it's kind of a cool offer for the out-of-network folks, and you could do a lot more with out-of-network insurances because you don't contractually you don't have to bill their out-of-network insurance, although you still can, and then decrease price, whatever it is. I think the student offer is good, but the thing is like when you're working with a student, you're still getting the PT. But if every session was with the student, I think it could be okay. I just would wonder how much work that would put on the PT. But obviously, like within our compensation model, that PT could still get some extra payment for that. And so I think it's a cool idea for PTs to make more money within a practice, because that's the biggest thing we're always trying to find, which is like, how do we help our PTs make more? Like I don't like just salary, you do whatever amount of work and then that's what you get paid. Like I love a business where we can incentivize people to help the business do well and also help themselves do well at the same time, like the double win. And so, I think that there's something here for that. I could almost see it being more, instead of a student, because you don't have that person regularly, I could see it being like a tech where it's like, hey, come in, you can do like your PT will program this, but you'll just run through it with the tech. So they'll watch you, but every 4th visit you get to check in with your PT. And I know like there's probably some PTs sitting out there like, oh my God, like, I would never do this, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, to me, it's like if it's the difference between someone getting physical therapy and then not, and just like watching YouTube videos and getting better, I think this option is way better, right? Like, you're doing this under the guidance of a PT. Yeah, you're not directly working with them, but like, every couple weeks you check in or you talk to the person at the beginning of their session for 5 minutes when they show up. You make any tweaks, you write the program, and then they go do it with like someone who's been trained by our company to do it. I think that's actually like a pretty solid thing. And honestly, it's almost like the personal training model could be that way. It's like you have a tech that takes people through their like continuity personal training in person, but it's programmed by a PT, and that's the increased value versus seeing a personal trainer, especially if you're like someone that's more concerned about injury and you've had injuries in the past and you want to be overseen. You're programmed by like a medical provider.
Yeah, again, I think the whole, like you said, the main reason to just like look into all these models is to, instead of complaining about, oh, insurance doesn't pay us more, it keeps going down. It's like, okay, what does crying about it on a podcast do, right? It's like,
Yeah.
we have always been like, well, let's figure out something else. Alex Hormozi's figured it out in many different industries and many different things. Like, let's try and use those ideas and tools to change the future for our people. So like,
Yep.
yeah, a lot of these things, yes, they might not sound attractive right off the bat, but if doing them allows you as a PT to then make more money, like, I think it's a win-win. And again, these are just kind of ideas. I think the next category, so continuity, I think that's where the unlock will be, and that's where we really got to figure something out eventually. So first one was a recovery membership where you get access to all of our tools for recovery. Like you can come in, use the boots, use the hypervolts. But then what if we also had like a mobility class, whereas and you get access to these classes, and it's $150 a month. And then it's like, yeah, you're still doing your workouts and stuff, but you've got the tools to come in and recover with, and a mobility class where you could talk to someone for a little bit, and then shoot, maybe you get a one-off session. Other one would be a wellness subscription. So it's more like you get that monthly evaluation. You could book like a dry needle. You could book a injury prevention session or something like that. But it's a subscription, and you just have access to like maybe like 4 visits a month or whatever. And you just use them or you lose them.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be that online. So it's like, $97 a month. You get mobility online classes, recordings, you get live classes, you get Q&A, just kind of the standard online marketing model where they have like the communities and stuff like that.
I mean, that's the school group, dude.
Yeah.
It's like webinars. You get access to the community of content, all of the like videos we produce, and like that's a harder play for most people. I think that obviously we have the content team, the video editing team, and all that stuff. So like this could be a play that's in our grasp. And I think it's like these are all fun pilots to try, and this is the fun of owning a business. It's like obviously I always like to follow the We'll make this will be the bow to Hormozi episode. More, better, new. It's like we got to keep on doing more PT. We got to do it better. But then maybe we do the Google rule where it's like 70, 20, 10, and the 10% on the back end is like trialing these new fun things to do. And I think like these continuity offers again, it's like, how do you turn a steady cash flow business but that's all service based into also a recurring revenue model? And if you could do that, if you can unlock recurring revenue on top of this, it's like, imagine the enterprise value of a physical therapy clinic that has a recurring model built within it as well. Because then you're not selling at, like, if you ever decide to sell your company out there, you're not selling at a 4 to 6 times, EBITDA or, profit or whatever. Now you're selling more like a SaaS company, at least on those sales, where you're probably going to get like 10 to 15x on the recurring. And then, there's going to be some, especially if it's an online component, like a school group or something like that. Like that's just such a differentiator in PT. Hard to value, I bet, when people are buying, but like I think highly valued when if you sell. And then honestly, just like having increased enterprise value unlocks a lot for people. So, I mean, all of these things are awesome pilots. I probably like the lowest hanging fruit one, where it's like, hey, come and access the stuff we already have in here, and it's self-serve, versus like having someone have to run a class. Because again, you start to get into the thing of like, we're basically creating, a position that someone has to work that. And if that person's gone, then you have to fill it. And like,
Well, could a PT do it?
yeah, I mean, for sure. But then you get into like
only one of the PTs can, and then they leave, and then you can't.
Yeah, or like another one can, but they don't want to stay late after their day. Like, you start to create some problems. And now I think about that all the time when we do stuff where it's like, one, don't have key man syndrome, where it's like, if this person leaves, this service goes away. So like, you have to have multiple people in the organization able to fulfill the service and understand how to at a moment's notice. So it's like, ideally for this programming continuity, you have like 10 therapists that do it. And if one leaves, you're able to like have the other 10 absorb those folks' clients. And then they just make more off that. So I think that is probably the best way. And like for us, like the Covington Clinic is going to be the best place to do this, because it's like, we may as well just pull all of our recliner chairs out of the trailer and like pilot whether those chairs make sense to just have in a corner of the gym, and just see if people, utilize them and stuff. So, I mean, that, like, all of these things are really cool. And as we pilot them, we'll share, what we're doing. We already have a form of a continuity offer that we're piloting, and has been, I would call it successful, at least with the person that we're doing it with, especially in the small sample size, because the amount of continuity that we've sold just from that one PT, if we did it over all of our physical therapists, that would be a pretty substantial recurring payment class there. And so like, I think there's definitely something to be had with all of these. But I think the biggest thing about, and I really love this segment, by the way, I think the biggest thing with this segment is like, as a business owner, no matter your industry, these are fun exercises to go through to get the creativity of like business going. And this, don't think of this as like your savior though. Like, I wouldn't think of like any of these like upsells, downsells, continuity. I wouldn't think of any of that as, or a traction offer. It's not going to be your savior, right? It's like, again, more, better, new. The attraction offer is not like, you come with a great attraction offer, you're probably going to get a good bump in people coming in, but it's not going to replace like the physician marketing, the Google ads optimization, like SEO, even like CRO, right? Like, making sure that conversion rate is optimized for people who visit your website or actually come in for the PT session. And that's kind of like, your evaluation process matters in that CRO as well. And so like, there's so many things you can do within the primary service first before you start to go try this out. And this is all stuff where I'm like, if you don't have good operating procedures and you're not like super stable on your like model of like market, sell, retain kind of like system, then you're gonna struggle in any of these things, because again, it's going to be a new thing to market, it's going to be a new thing to sell, and it's going to be a new thing to retain inside of your business. And so if you're not also already good at the primary service, I would focus more on other pieces of these models versus like the, this part.
For sure. Yeah. Sometimes it's just also how you're packaging it. I think that's what I like about Hormozi is like he just he packages it in an attractive way where you're like, oh shoot, I should get that. And like he had so many things where I even talked to someone that like the FOMO hit. I had to buy the $6,000 worth of books. I'm like, man, to be able to do that is pretty awesome. And I think like I heard on this podcast the guy said, if your brand strategy, the opposite of it is really stupid, then you don't have a strategy. You're just doing what everyone else is doing, right? We have the awesome PT session that gets you out of pain. It's like, okay, that's what everyone's session is. Like you have to package it in a way, like we said, you actually get all the tools that every pro athlete gets packaged in ours. The opposite of that isn't stupid. The opposite of that is what everyone else is doing.
Yep.
So I think like start to think about that. If you're not ready for all of these models and you're not even able to like generate leads for yourself currently, maybe it's just a packaging thing and a positioning thing.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, you can take advantage of some of these other things within this system as well. Like if you're like selling, right? It's like could be, hey, by the way, within the first 10 days of your evaluation, the like recovery package is this much. If you buy it now for like after you get done with PT, but once you graduate, this price goes up. So you can lock it in here for this much, but then it goes up to this much. And then like you could get them to commit. And I would be very curious if I would assume it will be just based on psychology. It's going to create a better consistency and less churn for that person during their actual course of PT because they know something at the end they already paid for to get. So they have to get to the end point, which is like graduating physical therapy.
Yeah. I like the one too where he's like, you eliminate and then suggest or whatever. He's like, you probably don't need these, but this is what I would recommend.
Yeah. That's like that. I mean, like all those psychology things are so interesting. And it's all like the amount of that you want to adopt is going to be heavily based on the amount of sales training you want to do because like all of this stuff takes ongoing sales training. And if you're having high turnover of your sales positions and you're multi-site, like for us, we'd have to train probably 6 people unless you wanted to have one centralized person that was selling over the phone. Whereas like a lot of this stuff is going to be easier to sell at point of contact from the front desk. So then you have to train all 6 front desks to do it. It just becomes a little bit more of a difficult issue. And so it's all just about like how much sales you want to actually train on. And that's why PT could be easy because there's really, minimal sales. There is a sales component because like, again, even though you're not deciding the price, you do have to like value stack, like what people are going to get for that money towards their deductible. And so it's like, I think if you can figure out a way to reframe, like you could spend this money towards your deductible getting an MRI for $2,000, or you can get all of this for $2,000. This is the difference. And so like that could be marketing in itself where it's like an MRI is going to cost you $2,000. You may as well get, 15 visits. And what you get during those 15 visits is all of this. And you're much more likely to get better.
Yeah. And you might actually get better. Whereas you get the MRI, you're not like,
yeah, exactly.
It's just showing you something.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nice. Well, I like the new segment. This is going to be the Hormozi episode.
Yep. Love it.
And that's the pod.